Am I the a-hole for not paying college money for my daughter, which I found out wasn't mine? My ex cheated on me and made me believe for 9 years that my daughter was mine. When I found out, I filed for divorce but still had to pay child support. I felt bad for my daughter, so I gave my wife the money I had for her college fund. But the minute I did, my ex-wife refused to let me see her. Eventually, I got remarried and have a son and another daughter. My ex got in contact with me through social media and asked for her college fund. When I told her I already gave it to her for my daughter, she confessed that she spent it on gambling and lost it all. My daughter had no money for college and could only go with debt. She asked for more money, but I said no, since I already gave it, and the only other fund I had now was for my son and other daughter. And I wasn't going to give her that fund. My ex told my daughter a twisted version of the event, and now she's mad at me and calling me an a-hole and playing favorites. My ex-wife is joining in as well. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Provide your daughter with your bank statements from 9-ish years ago showing you gave her mother her college fund. If you have your ex's comments regarding the college fund in social media comments, also provide that to your daughter. If you want, you can show her that you paid for her child support as well every single month. You fulfilled your legal duty, child support, to your daughter regardless of her biological connection to you. Not an a-hole. I do have screenshots of her remarks. My daughter does know I paid her child support. She just thinks I should pay for her college again because of her mother. Not an a-hole. It does suck that your daughter got saddled with a crappy mom. But you've done your part, and you provided for her thus far. Now it would be unfair to your other kids. To ask for their fund is entitled and rude. She needs to grow up and blame the real villain here, her mother. Info. You said your ex denied you contact even though you were paying child support. If you're paying child support, you are entitled to a custody hearing. Have you not seen your daughter this whole time? You're not a hole about the college fund, but I'm curious why you can't just explain to your daughter what happened. I have, and she doesn't believe me since I haven't seen her. Show her the message exchanged with her mom. You just walked away from her after 9 years? His wife did not let him meet her. He was legally her father. He had rights. If this story is true, which is doubtful, then when mom said no, Opie said, "Oh, okay, cool," and abandoned his daughter for 9 years. That's not normal. He was most likely on the birth certificate as her father. Once he found out his daughter was not his, because his name is on the birth certificate, he still needs to pay child support for her, regardless of whether she's biologically his or not. But he most likely had no grounds to fight for custody because he is not her biological father. So yes, the mother can refuse visitation while he is still paying child support. The system is completely flawed. Not an a-hole. The one your daughter should be getting angry at is your ex-wife. If she had any concern about her, she would go gambling around. You don't owe them crap. Let them take loans or whatever. You have done your part. Let your daughter see some proof. Though I don't know how she's ready to believe someone who lied for 9 years and not you. Still, you leaving her after learning she wasn't yours is a trash behavior. 'Cause real or not, as a parent, you loved her for 9 years. You were the father figure for her. Can't imagine how sad she must have been. Probably even blamed herself for everything. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my son to stay the night at his grandparents' house? A little backstory. I am a single mother to a 2-year-old boy. We'll call him Gavin. Gavin's father, Ted, and I are not together. I have sole physical custody, and his father has supervised visitation once a week. Ted was never involved in my pregnancy at all, and is not very involved in our son's life either. Ted's mother, Rose, however, is very involved. Rose can be overwhelming, but I try to brush it off as I know she just does it out of love for her grandchild. I'll admit I'm a bit overprotective and hyper-independent, as I don't trust many people to be alone with my son. When Gavin was first born, I had a rule, like many other parents, that I did not allow anyone to kiss my child until he was a year old. I was afraid of him contracting any viruses that could significantly harm him as an infant. This fear came true when he got RSV at 9 months and spent 4 days in the hospital in oxygen. Anyway, Rose always tried to sneak kisses when I wasn't looking. I one time caught it on the baby monitor and I was furious. This was only the beginning of her having zero respect for my rules as a parent. The most recent time was when she came to my house to see Gavin. Gavin wanted to go play outside, but I had said no and that it was time to get ready for dinner. I told him we could play outside after we eat. Rose picked him up and he said, outside. I repeated what I had said, and she responded, oh, we'll just go out for a minute. I asked her to not do that because, knowing how my son is, I knew that he would inevitably be more upset when they came back in, and he wouldn't want to eat his dinner. Rose started to walk toward the door with Gavin, and I said, loudly and firmly, Rose, I said no. She continued to take him outside for a couple minutes and came back in. And what happened at dinner? He screamed about going outside and wouldn't eat. I was annoyed that she had not only undermined my parental authority, and showed my son that what mom says doesn't matter. She begs me to let him stay the night at her house, 1 hour away. I don't trust that she would follow my rules for him, and I'm truly not comfortable with him being an hour away from me overnight. She says it's time, and I say it's time when I say it's time. It's not that I don't like her, it's that I don't trust her. So am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I'd go a lot farther and actively ban her from spending time with your son until she respects your parenting decisions. Even if you depend on her for babysitting. It's only going to get worse if you let it slide now. Also, I would be a lot more transparent about why you don't want him to spend the night. It's time for me to take him overnight. I'm sorry, but it will be time for you to take him overnight when you can respect me as a parent and accept my decisions. Until I am fully convinced I can trust you to uphold my rules and not undermine my authority, you will not be spending that much time with him. Or just no. Especially after consulting a lawyer about the visitation order, making sure mom has full legal control over the issue, including with grandparents. And I wouldn't let her have even 1 hour with him alone at this point. Find a different babysitter, etc. So the woman that raised the guy that is not in your son's life and has supervised visitation and does not listen to or support your parenting decisions want to have your kid for overnight visits. Yeah, not today, Hall. I'm surprised you still allow visits at all. Not today, Hall. Her undermining your parenting that directly, in my opinion, means low contact or no contact. She is outright not listening to you, and any boundaries you set that even concern your child's health. She outright didn't listen to you when you were right there. Imagine being at her place an hour away from you. She isn't Gavin's parent. You are. And obviously understand Gavin better than she does. I wouldn't trust her. And I would reiterate that you don't appreciate her walking all over your boundaries as Gavin's mother, and therefore she will have limited contact with Gavin. If she doesn't like it, then she needs to start listening to you. But honestly, I highly doubt that, and she may become petty. Good luck, Opie. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my father to stop telling my niece to call him daddy? My sister had her baby a few months ago. It's been a bit tiring as normally because she's basically a newborn. My niece's father isn't exactly the best one, nor he has been that nice to my sister about everything, but he's still her father. My family, including me, don't really like him. However, my siblings said I hope that he will step up for the sake of his own daughter and my sister. Besides, we know it's not our place to decide anything for that matter. Our family lives under the same roof. My parents think differently. They want him completely out of the picture and basically hate him. They are rude towards him and will constantly belittle him. My father is an extremely impulsive and jealous person. I would even say he has anger issues. Because he doesn't like this man, he has taken every opportunity he has to rub it in my sister's face that he hasn't exactly done too much for his daughter. I constantly try to deter the conversation to avoid getting my sister upset, as she's breastfeeding and is very much tired. Ever since my niece was born, he would constantly tell her to call him daddy. We know she's still too young, but if this is the case now, I can't imagine how much worse it'll get when she starts babbling and talking. Every time he talks to her, he refers to himself as daddy, and it's annoying. My sister hates it and has told him, but he refuses to listen. Well, today he did the same thing, and repeated it so many times that I snapped and told him that he should stop, and that he is her grandfather, not her dad. Not daddy, just grandfather. He got mad and told us that he doesn't see any other father present, and that he deserves the title much more than that piece of turd of a man. I told him to stop, and he just walked away angry and telling us off. My mother didn't say anything and hasn't corrected him ever, but told us to stop being so rude. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Ew. It's gross to want to be daddy when your daughter is mommy. Blah. Boundaries are needed ASAP. Good for you. I also thought it was extremely weird. I think it might also be some type of power move on his behalf to assert his control over everyone at the house. Dad, if the baby starts calling you daddy, strangers are going to think that you impregnated your daughter. Is that what you want? For everyone to think you're some deviant? Then, if he continues to do it, I'd make exaggerated gagging noises each time. Make it super uncomfortable for him. Not today, Hall. It is extremely weird and potentially harming to your niece. Imagine her actually growing up calling your sister mommy and your father daddy, and then having to reverse everything when she's older. It's weird. Not today, Hall. Maybe you and your sister need to look for a place to live that doesn't involve living with your parents. Speaking of, does your sister know her dad is doing this? We've talked about it, and we hope that it can be done soon enough. We're still deep in debt for our universities. Unfortunately, there are no student loans where I live. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I won't recommend my nephew's mom for a job? So long story short, when I, 28 female, was in high school, I was tormented by this girl Amy, 28 female. Amy treated me like crap in freshman year, to the point she was kicked out of school. It didn't help because we were on the same softball and basketball team. And she treated me like crap there too, until I quit because I couldn't deal and they wouldn't kick her off the team. She then followed me into my teaching extracurricular, which ruined that for me too. It didn't truly end until I had nothing left. Fast forward to 2015, and my brother announces he had a one-night stand and was expecting a baby. And who was the mother in question? Amy. My brother apologized so many times to me, and eventually I forgave him, but it did affect our relationship. He brought her of all people back into my life. She acted like nothing had happened at first, and then when she was telling us all about wanting us super involved, she started cracking jokes about this girl she knew in high school, who was so weird and geeky and tried to get in on the sports stuff when she had no place in it. That was me. I was the girl she was cracking jokes about. She was called out on it, and she acted like she didn't remember me, but no apology was ever made. And now she lost her job because of a bad breakup. Ended up staying at my parents' house for a while before going to a friend of hers' place. And she's been rejected from several jobs. She has a pending application where I work, and she asked me to put in a good word for her so she can get it. My brother and parents told me I should recommend her for the job, that I did it before for people and I should do it again for my nephew. But I can't work with her and see her for my nephew's sake. I don't want her in my life at all, and I can feel it already bothering more that she's part of our lives now because of my nephew. I love him, but if I could change who his mother was, I would in a heartbeat. I hate her for what she did to me, and I can never forgive and forget. I just try not to deal with her too much. So I said no. I told them I couldn't do it. Now everyone thinks I'm an a-hole, because my nephew has a mom with no job, which means less stability for him as she's been going through a few different places to live with friends. The fact is, my voice would hold some weight and she would likely get the job if I said something. Am I the a-hole for not? Not the a-hole. She's never stopped being toxic, and you aren't obligated to help her ruin your work environment. You'd end up quitting, or at best looking like an unreliable jerk. That said, unless your family's on a first-name basis with your management, maybe you should have lied. Or at least dissembled like, I'll do what I can. But they're looking for certain qualifications, so she shouldn't bank on it. Think about how you will look to the company after recommending someone and then having to put a harassment claim against them. Not an a-hole. 100% this. You don't need to risk your own professional reputation for someone that has displayed their own inability throughout multiple years and on multiple occasions to behave civilly. Edit. Obviously not the LOP. Your nephew's mother is having employment issues because she is irresponsible. This is a mess 100% of her own making. Yes, it would be easy on everyone else if you gave her a recommendation, but it creates other problems that only you have to deal with. First, you have to work with a toxic colleague. Second, when she messes up this job, you will look bad for having given her a recommendation. Your brother and parents have no right to put this on you. Tell them to get her a job and leave you out of it. Not an a-hole. When she messes up this job, you will look bad for having given her a recommendation. Ding ding ding! This right here. Opie, you said your voice would hold some weight. How do you think that would change if your nephew's mother messed up at this job? It doesn't seem like she ever stopped being a toxic person, so her messing up at some point seems rather likely. I wouldn't get involved if I were you. About your family, maybe act like you put in a good word for her but don't actually do it? Just an idea. I think in this situation it would be okay to lie in order to keep the peace. But your family are a-holes for trying to guilt you into doing something you don't want to do, especially as it's something that would make you uncomfortable on a daily basis. Working with your former tormentor sounds like a nightmare, and you might face negative consequences at some point. Not a a-hole. You would be inviting your tormentor in your space. She has hurt you badly, and does not have the right to ask this from you. If they really want to, everyone else can help out, but you are in the clear. She didn't even apologize. What do they say? You reap what you sow? Am I the a-hole for paying for my bio daughter's wedding, but not my stepdaughter's because of how she acts and treats me? For context, I, 56 male, have been married to my wife, Lisa, 57 female, for 25 years. We have a daughter together, April, 24 female, and Lisa has a daughter, Carly, 33 female, with her ex-husband, Doug, 60-ish male. Lisa had divorced Doug when Carly was only 6 or 7 because he had addiction problems and refused to seek treatment for it, and essentially couldn't hold down a job or help provide for their family. I met Lisa soon after and we got married, and she had full custody of Carly, so they both moved into my house at a time. I've always seen Carly as my own daughter, and always wished to be an additional male figure in her life, after her own father, but she always saw me as the man who replaced her dad and took them away from him. As someone who came from divorced parents myself, I completely understand why she felt this way, and respected that she wanted space and boundaries from me, so I never pushed anything beyond just a friendship between us and never forced a father-daughter relationship. With this, I always tried my best to show up to her school events with her mom, paid for college, including her in all of my family's gatherings, etc. But once Lisa and I had our first child, April, Carly was extremely resentful of April, and thought April was here to replace her the way I replaced her dad and her family. She would often bully April when they were kids, and we had to put them both in therapy to finally work things out. Now they're both adults and have their own lives, but Carly continues to take digs at April whenever she has the chance, compares herself to April, talks down to her, etc. And now this is getting to their weddings. April got married last year, and I paid for the whole thing as she is my daughter. Carly recently got engaged, and I offered to help pay for the wedding, which she gladly accepted, and the planning was seemingly going well until she showed her mom the guest list, and April and I were nowhere to be found. Carly said she didn't feel close enough with April and I to include us in her big day, which I respect and understand. But she's not close enough to me to invite me to her wedding, yet she's okay enough with me to want me to fund the entire event? This is when I told her I won't be paying for it anymore, and it's become a huge issue that I'm treating her like she isn't my daughter. Showing favoritism to April is not fair, etc. I have done nothing but try to build a relationship with her for 25 years, but she clearly doesn't want one except for when I'm financially benefiting her. I didn't mind this when she was a kid because it was my responsibility to provide for her, but I'm just so sick of this now that she's older. Am I the a-hole for paying April's wedding but not Carly's? Now for the top comments. Tell her you didn't want to replace her dad, so it didn't feel right taking his responsibility of paying for the wedding. Also, you may consider her your daughter, but she made it obvious she doesn't consider you her father. And his wife doesn't consider him her father either, or she would have encouraged a relationship for them. She was 6, not 16. I'm very surprised that more people don't understand the concept of don't bite the hand that feeds you. How does a grown woman think not inviting the person who's paying for her wedding would go over well? Not the a-hole. Don't give in and pay. You're just an ATM to Carly. She doesn't have any respect for you. I can't believe the nerve of her to expect you to foot the bill, yet you don't get invited. Yes, she doesn't have to have a relationship with you nor April, but that doesn't mean you should be taken advantage of. Let her know that you understand you two don't have a relationship because she never wanted one, and you completely respect that. However, that goes for your money too. The petty person in me would tell her to go ask her own father for money for her wedding. Where is your wife in all this? Does she approve of Carly's behavior? Is she pressuring you to pay? My wife is just really upset. Not with just the wedding, but the way Carly has rejected me over the years, and that has gotten to this point. She wants Carly to invite April and I and then have me pay if I get invited. But I think the damage has been done by now to even reconsider helping. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter she shouldn't be shocked at getting less money gifted for her wedding than her sister received? I have two daughters, Maddie 30 and Jess 28. They're both beautiful young women with a lot going for them. Maddie got married in summer 2021 while Jess got married this past December. Maddie always wanted the traditional large wedding with the whole extended family and a big reception. She ended up having about 150 guests attend, and it was a blast. Jess, however, always wanted something more low-key, which suited her personality better. She doesn't love being the center of attention, and said many times how she thinks spending a ton of money in one day is unreasonable, which is fair. From the time they were little, my spouse and I saw that coming and were okay with it. Planning Maddie's was a lot, so we were honestly a little relieved when she told us. She had a very small wedding, but then rented out a space for a celebration a week after that she invited relatives to. Due to a few factors, which I believe would be doing it in the winter versus summer, not inviting people to the real wedding, and just being less of a social person her whole life than Maddie, not as many relatives attended Jess's event. We have a large extended family, but only about 1/3 of the relatives who went to Maddie's wedding attended Jess's event. She also didn't receive nearly as much money gifted. Maddie told us from family that her husband and her got about $25K, which they put towards the down payment, while Jess got some money but just a few thousand, mostly from her grandparents. Jess was complaining about it this weekend and saying how the favoritism that Maddie got was unfair. Said that it's proof that a family doesn't care about her, and to be honest, she was sounding a little bratty. I told her she shouldn't be surprised that people she chose not to include in her actual wedding weren't willing to travel to the other event or be as generous, and that she should be grateful people came at all, and that her parents paid for everything. I told her for having no expenses and still getting a few $1,000s, she should be thankful. Jess did not take that well and called me an a-hole and has been very, very upset. I personally think she's being a little over-dramatic and will get over it, but Maddie told me I was being a little harsh even if what I said was true. Am I the a-hole? To answer the common question, for Jess's event, we rented out a restaurant's event space. There were drinks and hors d'oeuvres, but it was not a traditional wedding reception, as in no full meal, dancing, no DJ/band, no wedding party speeches or anything like that. This was exactly what she wanted, and my spouse and I paid for it entirely. Info: how much did you personally give Maddie and Jess? Did you help pay for both weddings as well? We did not give a cash gift to either, but paid for Jess's entire event. Maddie's wedding was paid through a combination of me and my spouse, her husband's parents, and Maddie and her husband. Not the a-hole. Why would your family give money to a couple who didn't invite them to the wedding? The cash gift was just that, a gift. They're lucky to have received more than they spent on the wedding, which was paid for by parents. This is what I was trying to tell Jess when she told us this plan. I told her I support it if that's what she wants, but she should be aware that it's very possible invitees won't treat it with the reverence and expectation of being invited to a wedding, and the turnout is likely to reflect that. Not the a-hole. Who seriously cries because they only got a few thousand as wedding money? That's very spoiled and ungrateful. I can see why fewer people came and gifted her money. A massive part of this was missed off the OP. From reading the comments, only about 10 people were invited to the wedding and the rest were invited to a celebration dinner at a restaurant on another day. Jess is seriously the a-hole. A celebration dinner isn't a wedding, and I don't imagine those attending really thought about giving a wedding-style present. This isn't about favoritism. This is about two different events receiving different gifts. And it wasn't even a dinner, just drinks and appetizers. You don't give a wedding-type gift for some snacks this normal. To expect wedding-type gifts for a non-wedding/just a celebration is warped thinking. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister wear my wedding dress, even though I never actually wore it? I, 28 female, was 15 weeks pregnant when lost my fiancé. He had been in an accident at his bachelor party and experienced a traumatic brain injury. He was in a coma for a while, but it was pretty clear immediately after the accident that he likely wouldn't recover at all. I was obviously heartbroken for a lot of reasons, but something that particularly haunted me was feeling like our child would never have anything from their father. He wasn't very materialistic, so I didn't really have any sentimental items of his to pass on. The only thing I have is my dress. It's not traditional, but he picked the wedding dress. We saw it when we were at a second-hand shop looking for cheap furniture. He said that when he imagined our wedding, he imagined me in a dress like that one. My mother-in-law had it preserved for me after his funeral, and I decided that when my child got old enough, it would be theirs. The baby is a boy, and is 4 now, so I don't think he'll be wearing the dress. But if he does, that's fine. Lol. If he gets engaged to someone and that person wants to wear it, I'd be alright with that too. Now, my sister Faith, 25 female, is getting married in the fall. She called me a few days ago and asked if she would be able to wear my dress for her wedding. I explained to her why I wasn't comfortable with letting her use it, as I planned to pass it down to my son since his father chose it. She said that she doubted my son would ever actually wear the thing, and that I'm doing my fiancé an injustice by letting the dress he picked sit in a box collecting dust. I told her again that I wouldn't be letting her borrow it, and then hung up. Our mom called me and said that my sister is hurt because she had her heart set on that dress, and she wanted to share this special moment with me. I said that I'd be willing to go dress shopping with her, that we can have a special moment then, but my mother told me that I'm being selfish, and that I should be happy that someone will actually get to walk down the aisle in my dress. Still though, I told her I wasn't changing my mind. Most of my family saying it's unfortunate I never got to wear it, but that I should be happy my sister wants to. I'm not really second-guessing my decision, but I'm feeling a little guilty about it. I just want some unbiased opinions on this. Edited to add, when we were going through the wedding preparations, my sister was there when I tried on the dress after it was altered. She's into vintage fashion, and she said she really loved the style of the dress, and pointed out that it was probably worth more than my fiancé paid for it. It's possible that a driving factor behind her having her heart set on it is because it happens to fit into her interests, but I don't know. Also, my son and I visit my mother-in-law almost every weekend, so I might just bring the dress over there with me and ask her to keep it for me. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. I think what you are saving that dress for is beautiful in itself. I'm sure your child will think so too when he's older. There are millions of wedding dresses to choose from. She doesn't need that one. Thank you. I hope he'll think that too. I wish I could give him more than just a dress and memories, but I'm glad he'll be able to have a connection to his dad through something he found beauty in when he was here. I fear that if you were to give in to your sister's demands, the second you hand it to her, the likelihood of you seeing it again would be slim. She would claim it as hers, and that she would want to pass down to her kids. Your sister also most likely doesn't want it for sentimental reasons, but to get a free dress. Your family's being heartless. Do not give her that dress. I would also suggest storing it in a safe place that your family can't reach, so they can't attempt to take it from you. Sounds extreme, but it's better to take precautions now. Not the a-hole. Yep, my mother's sister-in-law did return my mom's dress, but the whole outfit was damaged. Years later, she borrowed a veil and headdress for a relative of hers, and they were never returned. Not the a-hole. I think your reasoning is beautiful. I think your sister and mother are being cheap. They may have to alter the dress so it fits your sister better. I do not know. And then it would not be the dress that your fiancé had picked out. Personally, so they can't steal the dress anyway, I would ask your mother-in-law to hold on to the dress for a little while. Maybe I've just read too many of these stories where that has happened. I thought about asking her to hold on to it, but she's not even aware that my sister asked for it to begin with. I didn't want to upset her or burden her with my family drama. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing the opportunity to walk my sister down the aisle? My father passed away when I, male 26, was 22 and my sister, female 29, was 25. With this in mind, my sister, after getting engaged, asked me if I would do the honor of walking her down the aisle. At first I was elated, and so I enthusiastically agreed. Then things quickly changed after my sister realized that my wife was pregnant. In the preceding months, my sister made my wife's life hell, who initially had been one of her bridesmaids, but was relatively recently informed that she will not be one. Originally, it was fine, but as my wife's pregnancy became visible, my sister would at times taunt her and make rude comments towards her. During her bachelorette party just a few days ago, she even yelled at her because she was ruining her fun by being too distracting and not drinking. I kid you not. The ensuing onslaught resulted in my wife being removed as one of her bridesmaids. She even left my pregnant wife on the side of the road as my sister made her way to a party planned in part by my wife and in a limousine paid for by me. This coupled with the fact that she had asked me recently to ask my wife to stay at home because her pregnancy will take attention away from her on her special day just broke me. I called her up yesterday after I found out what she said to my wife, and I told her that I will not be attending the wedding and that she will have to find someone else to walk her down the aisle. That's when the calls began. Everyone has been calling me, telling me that I am overreacting and that I am intentionally trying to sabotage her wedding. She even called to yell at me and told me she had always hated that witch while referring to my wife. I told her to get lost, of course. My mother has been extremely sympathetic towards my wife and she agrees with me. My wife has been crying over this, and she has herself received an onslaught of messages. I blocked all of my relatives, except my mother, of course, and am planning a trip to Disneyland for my wife and I on the day of my sister's wedding, as I already booked the days off from work, and Disney is where my wife and I went on our first date when we live in LA. This news has started its own onslaught. Nevertheless, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister made it impossible for you to participate in the wedding. Boy, no kidding. OP, write a list of what your sister has said and done to your wife, and then a follow-up call where she said she always hated that witch, and send it out to everyone who's contacted you to berate you. I'm so sick of these bridezillas who feel they can say and do anything because it's their special day. Whoa. Not the a-hole, but has your sister been like this before? This sounds like it's beyond bridezilla. I was thinking this sounds like it's about way more than the pregnancy. Info, did the two not get along before? Definitely not the a-hole because you don't have to attend any event you don't want. Your reasons are valid, and I'm wondering what your family, the ones texting you, have been told if they're not siding with you. You don't owe anything to your elder sister just because you're a man, and your dad isn't there. Your sister sabotaged her own wedding. I'm surprised that the other bridesmaid didn't pull out, and that the groom still intends to marry her. Maybe they are birds of a feather. Of course, he may not have been told the truth of why he pulled out. Who leaves a pregnant woman out on a sidewalk and blames her for being a party pooper because she will not drink? A distraction for showing her bump? The whole wedding party on the bride's side are such a-holes for allowing this bullying too. There's a line where even the bride has to be told to stop. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my stepkids I'm not their mom? My husband, 40 male, and I, 36 female, have been together for 8 years now, and our marriage have been rocky. When I met him, he had twins, boy and girl. I love them like they're my children, since it's hard for me to have kids that are mine. My husband and I tried for a baby last year, and I became pregnant but had a miscarriage. I think I'm just not meant to be a new mommy. The kids are 16. The husband's kids haven't seen their mom in years because she left them for a guy in New York. Which is so sad, because they didn't get to have a relationship with her. The twins call me mom at everything, and we do everything like a little family I always wanted. When I was younger, I always used to tell myself not to date a single father because they might be messing with the mother of their kids, but I took the leap of faith. The other day, my son and daughter wanted to go to the mall with their friends, which was fine because they go to the mall a lot with them. The argument started because of what she was wearing. She wore a very short skirt with a crop top and a jeans jacket. I immediately told her no and to change her clothes because I didn't feel comfortable with her going outside like that. I don't even know where she got the skirt from because anything she gets from the mall she gives me a haul. Her brother didn't even care what she was wearing and just rolled his eyes at me. She was mad and upset. At the top of the stairs, she screamed and told me I wasn't her mom, so I should stop acting like it. Her brother laughed, and that made me feel even worse, so I asked him why it was so funny to him. He said that it's true, that I'm not their mom, so I need to stop acting like I can tell them what to do. This felt like a slap in the face because I basically raised her, and this is what I get? The past months they've been saying horrible things to me. My daughter even told me it was my fault I lost the baby, and she's happy I did. But the next day, I toughened up. I acted like nothing happened that day. I would usually wake them up for school and make them breakfast, but this time, I didn't. I made myself breakfast, because like I said, I'm not their mom. My son had a basketball game that day and I would be the mom to bring snacks for the team, but I wasn't going. My daughter had a cheer competition 2 days after, but I wasn't going. I know y'all might call me petty for this and I would disagree with you. I've been getting up and ignored everyone. I could feel them staring at me every time. Last night, my daughter came up to me and asked me why I didn't show up to her competition, and I told her I wasn't her mom, so why would I? I can already see the YTAs, and I raised my husband's kids and stuff. I told my husband what they said, but he brushed me off. I don't think our marriage is working out, and I've been thinking about a divorce. I feel unappreciated in the place I call home. When I slave in the kitchen to make them food, they order out instead, so I'm the only one eating the food. Was that too harsh? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They knew what they said, but are now facing the consequences of their mouths. Not the a-hole. Being a step-parent is a thankless job. Luckily, some don't have to live through this, but most of us do. Amen to this. The only time one of my stepdaughters calls or texts me is when she needs me to do something for her. Like do her taxes, use my house to host a baby shower for someone I don't know for 16 plus guests, rewrite her resume. You get it. Oh, and she'll be 28 next month. When I tell her no, I'm a witch. I think this one is not the a-hole. I don't know if they're trying to see your limits so they can see if you're going to leave them like their bio mom, or they just want to be preferred by their bio mom and taking their anger out on you. But I know this is a call for therapy. You're already hurt, and someone can get hurt even more if you don't get help. Your husband must care about this nonsense, and that's why he's the real a-hole in this story. I wouldn't say he's even worse than the kids, because as an adult and parent he needs to do something, and he just sits there and watching the crap show. What you do is petty, but you also show them you care and you're hurt actually. And if they question you again, you can always say you respect their boundaries. So even if you saw them as your own, you will not step on their boundaries and do mommy duties. Honestly, be petty so they can learn how to take granted people who loves them. I think it's the typical teenage a-hole behavior. They would do it in some form with their bio mom if she were there. She's not, so they go after the available parent and hit where it hurts without thinking about the consequences. I hope they will understand what they are doing and apologize. They told her it's her fault she lost her baby and they're glad she did. Not the a-hole. Also, you are only 36. I would not waste any more of my time with him if I were you. Take a year to yourself and try to see if it is possible to have your own family. Harsh to the twins, but they made it clear you are not their mom, and your husband is using you for a ready-made mom, while he gives no care to the fact that you don't have a secure place in his family. And then have kids if you want. My wife was 36 when I met her, and we're having our second. Sometimes things don't work out for a long time, then they do. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my 11-year-old stepdaughter isn't allowed around my infant again until she gets therapy? The situation is harder than a normal situation due to us having full custody of my stepdaughter, and her only seeing her bio mom once every 4 to 6 months. However, I have told my husband I'm going to stay elsewhere until he checks his daughter into therapy. For a bit of context, I have been involved in her life since she was 5 and we have had full custody of her for 4 years. I gave birth 5 months ago, and there's been things happening that I'm not okay with, and never will be okay with. These things were not present prior to the baby arriving, so I know it's due to the baby. Such as she's in complete competition with the baby, based on the looks alone. Like she will be holding the baby and say, "I'm so much prettier than you. You will never be prettier than me. You're just jealous that I'm the gorgeous one," etc., all in a baby voice. When my daughter smiles at her, she looks at me and her dad and says, "See, even she agrees with me. She knows she will never be as gorgeous as I am." We have asked her why she feels like she's in competition with a baby, and not for the normal things like attention, but physical looks instead. And she always says things like, "I'm not in competition with her. There's no competition. I'm just gorgeous and need to make sure she knows." The other thing is that I breastfeed, and nearly every time she holds the baby, she comments on my daughter trying to nurse off her. Like if my daughter grabs her shirt, she's immediately saying things like, "She's trying to take my shirt off and get to my boobs," and makes comments to the baby saying, "You're being inappropriate. Do not try to take my clothes off. You're weird. Those are my boobs." And she's 100% serious. Like she's really trying to accuse an infant of trying to strip her. I've talked to her about it. I've talked to my husband about it. I've talked to both of them at the same time. I've blatantly said that her attitude surrounding the baby makes me uncomfortable and untrusting. But apparently I'm blowing this out of proportion because it's not even a big deal. It is though, to me anyways, because it's every time she's near the baby. But today I had gone out to the car real quick, and when I came back in, my husband told me that his daughter had a baby in her room. I go in and see my stepdaughter laying with a baby in a nursing position with her back turned to me. I walk in and ask what is going on, and she immediately acts disgusted and says she's trying to take my shirt off again, and moves away from the baby and physically pulls her shirt down, big t-shirt that she had pulled up. I grabbed my baby and started packing. Husband comes in and asks where we are going. I tell him me and the baby are going to stay elsewhere until he gets his daughter into therapy because of what I just witnessed, and the fact that I don't trust her around my infant anymore. I told him I had tried talking to him and her both several times, and I'm done talking. He gets her help, or I'm not coming back home. He says I'm blowing this out of proportion, and he is sure that it wasn't what it looked like, and that I'm being ignorant for being willing to take the baby away from him and his daughter during crucial bonding months. I told him if he had taken me seriously to begin with, then it wouldn't have come to this. He can visit, she cannot until she's in therapy and working through her obvious issues. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Dad needs to understand between her being a tween and puberty and becoming more aware of her body and hormones and being in a home with a breastfeeding infant for the first time, and all of that, she's going to have issues that talking to a professional about would be good. She's hyperfixated on appearance and breastfeeding, and puberty is a beast, but adding hyperfixation in, she needs a professional, preferably a woman. Not the a-hole. I agree with all points. This poor child needs therapy before she causes some serious issues. I will say it is common and normal. I just want to stress that for girls that have been fed/are seeing it to nurse their baby dolls, but never try to do it with an actual baby. Mind you, I've only ever seen this in children younger than 10, more in the 8 range. I'm a little worried about what her life was like at her mom's. It sounds like the mom has no custody for a reason, and I'm a little worried that the mother did something in front of her that would make her think this is normal. OP should get her to a therapist ASAP to see what is going on, because this is not normal. If she has no mental issues, then this probably is something that occurred near or to her at her mom's. Do you love her? Would you be willing to spend time with her one-on-one? This could also be a reaction to you giving birth and not spending enough time with her. Pediatric nurse here. OP, under no circumstances and in no way are you wrong or overreacting. Your infant is entirely dependent upon you for its safety, since your husband made it very clear that he either doesn't care or is absolutely in denial that there is a threat. Also, statistically, the most dangerous person to any given child is typically a family member, not a stranger, a member of their own family. So everyone saying your stepdaughter is your daughter too is ignoring the fact that one child has become a potential danger to the other. The fact that they are family and young does not give them the right to do something you know is wrong to another child. Do not ignore your instincts. They are telling you the right thing. Also, speaking from personal experience, your child will never forgive you if you force them to be in the same place with somebody that is dangerous. That is betrayal that lives with them forever. You are supposed to protect your daughter. Failing that is not something that they will ever forget. Your stepdaughter does not need protection. She needs help. No, it is not your duty to protect her too, because she is not the one possibly in danger here. Yep, worked in a long-term locked-in psych/behavior unit for boys ages 7 to 17, and by far the most common source of physical/sexual abuse is a family member, and many times it's an underage sibling. Kids are sociopaths by default isn't a joke. The brain is still developing. It needs healthy boundaries and guidance. She has some issues, and it comes off like she has been abused in some way herself or has some weird fixations that somebody her age should not have. Not the a-hole. Good on you to protect yourself and your baby. I'm surprised this is the only reply mentioning the stepdaughter possibly having been abused. OP, her behavior has so many abuse flags waving. Dad needs to get her in therapy to address anything that might have happened to her and her behavior towards the baby. I've considered this as well, but admittedly, I don't know when that could have ever happened. Not saying it didn't happen, of course. Her mom doesn't have any boyfriends. She's a traveling nurse, which is why she barely sees her daughter. So when she does visit there, it's only them. When she stays at her grandmother's, there is no one around outside of her grandmother, and I don't think they would be inappropriate. They're both extremely concerned with her behavior, at the very least. The only other people she is around is me, the baby, and her dad. She doesn't do sleepovers. Her friends are allowed here, but we do not allow sleepovers because she is, by her definition/admission, lesbian. She's been dating Madison for 2 years. When they are broken up, she's always dating other girls. So we don't allow sleepovers because she's already kissing people and yada yada. So I don't know when it would have happened. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex-wife I'm not going to help our children learn her native language?
I'm male 32. I'm about to be divorced from my wife, female 34 of 7 years. Together we have 3 kids with ages ranging from 2 to 5. My wife and I have an interracial marriage, with myself being Italian-American, but my wife being the first person in our family who wasn't born in Japan. She was raised speaking Japanese in the home, and that is the language she uses to chat with her siblings. However, she was raised in the US and speaks native English as well, so there is no issue of her understanding of English. While we were originally dating, and again when we got married, I asked her if she wanted me to learn Japanese to better fit in with her family. Not only did she tell me that learning Japanese wasn't necessary, she also has got no contact with half her Japanese-speaking family over the years, so I didn't try to learn Japanese for years. Once we had kids, her tune changed, and it became important to her to continue her culture by teaching the kids Japanese. I bought the Genki books, I tried Primsler, and I'm proud now to say I speak Japanese at a level of a 2-year-old Japanese child. I even taught our kids their first Japanese word, which roughly translates to up or uppy. But I always feel behind, relative to where I would like to be, and the kids struggle to integrate into Japanese social situations. For a while, we were talking about doing some drastic changes to help the kids learn Japanese, such as moving to a city with more Japanese people, sending her away to Japan with the kids every summer, getting an au pair from Japan, etc. Separately, my wife gave me an ultimatum for an open marriage, and I simply couldn't feel comfortable with that, so a divorce seems like my only option. In a divorce, my main goals are A, to make sure my kids don't get a bad situation, B, to make sure that I am addressing my own needs. This came to a head recently when my soon-to-be ex-wife came to me and asked about when we wanted to start moving to the city with more Japanese people. I said that I wasn't sure that was going to happen, and she got upset, saying I had already agreed to move. I told her that I had agreed to move with my wife, and that I didn't want to move several hours away from my ex-wife. She then said that it was for the kids, so they could learn Japanese. I said I wasn't raised speaking Italian, and I only cared about the kids learning Japanese because I love her and wanted to support my wife. But if we are getting divorced, I need to suppress those feelings of love and ask myself what I want. And the answer is, I don't care if my kids can speak language I can't speak. But a part of me is concerned that my kids will wish we did more to teach them Japanese when they are older. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She agreed to monogamy and changed her mind. You agreed to move to a city based on the assumption you would be moving as a family. She changed the arrangement, not you. She wants to move there to be with other Japanese people. It has nothing to do with making a better life for your children. Your children will not be harmed by not moving. Your ex-wife can teach your kids about her culture as she wishes. She can move if she wants to, but she cannot force you to move. If she tries to leave with the kids, try for full custody. If she is upset about splitting the family in between cities, remind her that the family is fractured because of her. Your ex-wife is acting in her own interest and is trying to guilt you into harming your life so that she can feel better. If she wants to be selfish, she should be ready to accept the harm she does while doing so. Does she think that your children will benefit more from being better at a second language or from having a familial support system? She's acting out of self-interest. Listen, try to keep physical custody of their passports and speak to a lawyer to make sure, if possible, that she isn't going to take them on any trips to Japan. If she decides to move back there, this country doesn't care about U.S. custody agreements. She'll get custody and you'll never see them again. It seems unlikely that she would move back there when she's never lived there in the first place. I don't understand how the children can't learn Japanese from their mother. Young kids learn the language their parents speak to them, so why don't your ex-wife talk Japanese to them at home when she has the kids, and you can talk English with them when you have them? They can later have extra Japanese classes to support their learning, but the language should start at home. That said, none of this is your problem anymore. Your responsibility is to take care of your kids by getting a fair custodial agreement in the divorce and then sticking to your part in it. Your ex is responsible for her share, and teaching Japanese she's insisting on.
Am I the a-hole for telling my kid the real reason me and her father split? So, me and my ex-husband split about a year ago. He had been cheating for over half the amounts of years we had been together, and I caught him in bed with a man and a woman. He was bisexual. I divorced him soon after, despite all the pleading, and we went our separate ways. I've tried to briefly explain without outing him to my daughter, 15 female, why we are splitting. My intention was never to turn her away from her dad or make her hate him. We had originally stated that we would try to keep this as brief and shelter our daughter from this harsh time as much as possible. But lately, she has been very hateful and disrespectful towards me, and for the longest time I couldn't understand why. Until she had gotten into a fit and told me that I ruined her life, and if I just kept my legs closed, she would have still had her family back together. This shocked me. At first I was angry, but then I was confused as to where she got this information from. I'd asked her before, and she said that she wasn't going to talk to me when I was the one who ruined her life. I called her father and asked him if he knew anything about this, and if he had told anyone I was the one who screwed up. But he dismissed everything and said he had no clue where she had gotten that information from. Now I was really confused, and back to angry that she said this to me, but I chose to wait until I knew what was going on. I tried talking to her multiple times, but she continued to shut me down and say that I ruined her life. I'm a terrible mom, that I chose sex over her family, and I'm the only one to blame for not having a mom and dad together. I reached out to all family and friends to see if they had said anything that would lead to this as well. Now, I'm not proud of this, but I saw a message come up on my daughter's phone and I picked at it. The message read, "I know, sweetie, just 3 more days," and it was from her dad. I opened the phone to see tons of messages of them two going back and forth, with her telling him that she was sick of being here. She didn't want to be near me after I did that. She couldn't believe I would cheat. She's disgusted by me. And her father just agreed and consoled her. I asked him multiple times if he knew anything about her behavior, and he said no, and he put the blame on me for no reason. So I called him once again after that and messaged him about it, when he didn't respond and got left on read. So I sat my daughter down and told her that I know she's angry at me, and that I tried to shelter her from this and keep her as far away from this as possible, but I won't be held accountable for actions that weren't mine. I left any and all questions that I couldn't say without her perspective out. She was shocked and apologized for her behavior to me. This wasn't some petty revenge to get back at him, but I can't have my relationship with hers ruined either. I'm now getting blasted by all of my family and his for doing this. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. And you should screenshot and keep those messages of him turning her against you. That is illegal in many places, as is parental alienation. Also, keep any messages where he admitted he was the one who cheated, and where you agreed to not discuss it with her. Next, I'd consult a lawyer in case it takes this farther. Oh man, I actually get furious when the cheaters say their partner cheated, and try to get their kids to hate the faithful parent. He's so trash he's not worth anything. Sweetie, just 3 more days. Instant vomit. My ex-husband did this, also claimed I was the dangerous one. I had planned not to tell my son anything until he was an adult or at least late teens. I had planned to go with, sometimes, no matter how hard people try, it's best for them not to be together. This is what's best for us and you, because we couldn't live together lovingly and respectfully. But when my son came home with all of what happened turned around on me, I was cornered into sharing the truth. When I felt conflicted about what to believe, I had him use his critical thinking skills. For example, X is much stronger than I am, and I'm not physically capable of doing any of what he had done to me, and promised I wouldn't be upset with him if he didn't believe me. He thought through the facts and came to the correct conclusion. Not the a-hole honestly reads as the appropriate and good choice in a super cruddy situation. His manipulating and lying to get himself seen in the best light, after being the one to ruin things, mark him as one to not really sympathize with. She already was no longer being sheltered from it when you explain things. And at that point, knowing what really went on is just the best position to be in. I hope the family also have the full story too. Yeah, me too. But as for the family, I'm not sure what they do or don't know. Some of it is his family too, so I can't say much to them. Are you able to talk to them about it to make sure they know what really happened? Or like draft some kind of written account of what happened on your side as neutrally but true as possible. If he is going behind your back to turn your daughter against you, it wouldn't be surprising if it extended further out. Heck, sometimes just being the first to paint a messy situation is grounds to bend it a good bit in your own favor, and people take advantage of that sometimes. I could, but that's a lot of people, and very defined and argumentative people from my experience. So I'm just trying to take whatever energy I have to argue with them about it, because I know they won't believe me, or they will have an issue with something. Do you have proof he cheated? Because you're going to need it. You're going to drag your daughter into this mess. You need to talk to your lawyer ASAP. Not the a-hole. He's on a smear campaign against you, so you need all the proof you can get. I have the messages and proof of all the money he spent on hotel with other people that he's admitted to. I'm not sure where this will go as of now. Hopefully I won't need it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my boyfriend to come with me on a trip since he was about to ask his parents to pay for all expenses? My 20 female friends from uni and I have been planning to go on a trip next March since the beginning of this year. Since 2 of my friends are bringing their partners along with them, I've asked my boyfriend 19 male if he wanted to come as well, under the condition that he earned the money himself to cover his expenses, including plane tickets and accommodations, which had come to be around 5,000 Canadian dollars. I made this request months ago because I knew he was going to ask his parents for the money to cover the expenses, which they had always given him. Like when his brother asked for $3,000 for a gaming setup and when he asked for $2,000 so he could have a TV in his room. His family isn't super wealthy, but they're well-to-do, and his mom has tried to ask him to try and get a part-time job during school breaks, to which he has always said he'll try, but ended up never getting one. I grew up in a household where we often had to get by, and thus has worked/been working multiple part-time jobs since I was 16, and have been trying to urge him to get a job with his mother. A couple of days ago, he told me he wants to go on a trip with me, which shocked me, as I questioned how he was going to raise $5,000, since we still have classes and semester break doesn't start till late Feb. And he told me he asked his parents, and they agreed to help pay for his expenses. I told him no, I would not be allowing him to go on the trip with me, and refused to share our itinerary document with him, since I made it clear I didn't want his parents to pay for his expenses, and established that he would have to earn his keep. But he told me that this was something I should have zero say over, since I was never in charge of how his parents' money. We had a fight over this and he called me a controlling, manipulative freak. Before ranting to my friends' partners who were going on this trip with us, we're all part of the same friend group. They all agreed I was a little out of line and should have no say over how he raised the funds needed. I don't want to rant to my other friends about this, since I don't want them to think badly of me or my boyfriend. But it really made me confused as I have no clue if I'm the one at fault here. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. Your boyfriend has obvious entitlement issues. You're the a-hole because you're leveraging a vacation to make a point and police your boyfriend's behavior. If his lack of job bothers you, break up. But don't be in a relationship and then humiliate and exclude somebody into becoming the person you actually want to date. Is Opie's mother not a healthy relationship dynamic at all? He acts like he needs a mother. I think Opie was smart. She now knows how lazy and entitled he is, and what a poor life partner he would make. I'm going with you're the a-hole, not because you insisted on him paying for himself, as it sounds like self-sufficiency is important to you, but because after all these months of knowing the kind of person he is, you were still dating him. If his self-sufficiency isn't enough to go on a trip, it's not enough to be a boyfriend. It sounds like you are trying to fix him. Stop that and move on to other guys who aren't broken. If you don't want to date an entitled lazy guy, break up with him. Maybe life will be different for him after school, but it's a hard thing to change while in school full-time. Also, a girlfriend trying to train a boyfriend into being self-sufficient is not the foundation of a relationship. He'll do it or he won't. This trip isn't the mechanism to make it happen. Entitled and lazy? He's 19, goes to college and his parents are well off. Stop judging men based on the value they bring like they're some cash cows. He's a kid for Pete's sake. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s and she died recently of aneurysm. I've been with him 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus. The way he tells it is that they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me, that's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time, because I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years, and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing.
When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, why would us getting married affect my friendships? I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. They'd have lunch with the ex, they'd go to their geeky movies, and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, we had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out. She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning when I told him, you don't think you're going, do you? My argument summed up. She's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his she's my friend excuse since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to her funeral since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen him when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel and that he's willing to burn this to the freaking ground while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive a-hole over this, all saying that there's no romantic aspect to their relationship and that I'm heartless. Her husband went as far as calling me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt their relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel I should have to hide it anymore and can speak freely. Am I the a-hole for just wanting him to be done with her and for him to not attend a funeral? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman. Because, seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who treated you like this? How heartless. I really hope they don't have any children together, so when he divorces Opie, he can cut contact for good. If they had children, Opie would have mentioned that after she got pregnant. She again tried to convince him that he needed to give up his friendship. If she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you got past it. You're the a-hole. You can speak freely, and you can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. I bet he will leave her over this anyway, even when the ex is dead. 'Cause damn did you prove to be a crappy person. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to give my adult stepdaughter her own room in our new home? I, 35 female, have been with my husband, 43 male James, for 3 years, married for 18 months. He has a 21-year-old daughter from his previous marriage, Jane. Jane and I get along well, but she was already away at college by the time her dad and I got serious, so we don't have a very close relationship. James and I are looking to purchase a home together because our current home is not going to work for me in the long term due to some disabilities. We've found a few we liked, and we were discussing our options when I referred to the third room as the guest room. James asked what I meant, because that would be Jane's room. This led to an argument between us, because I don't think Jane needs a dedicated bedroom in our new home. She's renting her own place now, with roommates year-round, no more student housing. And she still has her room at her mom's house. Of course, she's always welcome to visit, and if she were to ever need to move back in, then we could adjust at a time. But as it stands, she's an adult moving on to the adult portion of her life, and it seems silly to dedicate a room for her when she'll use it for 2 weeks out the year max. My husband is upset with me still, but I really don't think his position is that strong. She's a grown-up now. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As you say, she's a grown woman with her own grown-up home. Why on earth would she need her own room in your new house? Tell your husband to cut the umbilical cord. I wonder if this is less about the umbilical cord and more about feeling some competition with the ex who still has a room for her adult daughter. This is it. Mom is home because mom has a room for her. Not the a-hole. I'm astonished at people calling you an a-hole and suggesting your daughter should get to decorate a room in your house which she doesn't live at. If my father tried to allocate me a room like this, I'd find it deeply weird. Have you got any indication about her feelings on this madness? We haven't spoken to her about it, but she usually prefers staying at her mom's anyway, so I would guess that she won't be all that interested. Maybe this is your husband wanting to keep a door open, so to speak, but it feels like a futile and somewhat wasteful gesture. In any case, this sounds like an issue he needs to work through, which is creating a problem for you. Only advice that could be given is to stand firm but speak through it with him. No a-holes here, but I strongly suggest you call the third bedroom Jane's room, at least for now. Moving into a new home is stressful enough. Your husband doesn't want to feel like he's losing his old house and his daughter, which is exactly what he's going to worry about if you start using the Jane can just stay at her mom's house logic. If Jane had her own room in the old house, then for now let her have her own room in the new house. As time goes on, when everyone settles in and your husband realizes how sporadically Jane visits, then he'll be able to accept the fact that Jane is an adult and the new house isn't her home. Not because she never had a bedroom to begin with, but because Jane grew up into a woman with her own home and her own space. If you let the process happen naturally, it'll still happen. But you won't look like the mean stepmother pushing out his daughter.